traveling like Spain or something.
Yeah.
That one.
I saw the one where he's assigned to guard Whistler's mother or something like that, or he's supposed to be an intellectual.
Okay.
Like these people who he works in an art gallery, and these people want to get rid of him because he's actually like incompetent. So they bill him as this expert that's supposed to like deliver a speech on Whistler's mother, but he accidentally ends up ruining the painting because he sneezes on it, and then he tries to wipe it off, but then he wipes ink on it because he has a dirty washcloth he tries to wipe it with.
God.
Then he truly destroys it by using paint remover on it to try and get the ink off. And so yeah, he has this whole journey and fiasco where he has to replace the painting and fix this huge mistake. So he partly also so he doesn't ruin this guy's life that is like working with him, whose house he's staying at.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What the universe needs is a crossover between Inspector Jacques Clouseau and Mr. Bean.
That'd be amazing. Well, would it be amazing? Because it's like the way those movies work. It's like you have one character that's really crazy, but then the world is normal. That's what makes the contrast so incredible.
Damn, that's true. They'd be trying to one-up each other.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also like, yeah, I wonder how exactly that'd work, because they're like two different kinds of naive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's for the best.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to the, was it the second official episode of the Shooting the Schmidt podcast? Probably about the second official episode, I think. Because we had number 0 with Sean, and we had number 1 with Oscar. And I haven't had any guests since then. We had Sean. We tried to have Sean over one more time, but we didn't get like a full podcast in. We just got that clip you might have seen that other day.
True.
But yeah. So yeah, welcome. But yeah, how would that work? Because like yeah, characters I guess are like they're the same thing but different.
That's true.
Cause the when Mr. Bean does things right too, it's like accidental genius, but like Clouseau can be like actually secretly really insightful.
See, I thought about that as well, but it's just like I can't tell. Clouseau is like chaotic.
Right.
At best, Mr. Bean is chaotic neutral.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I think so anyway, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cause like sometimes chaotic good, but usually chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
Because like he has his mean moments, he has his good spirited moments.
That's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah. But so Ishmael here is a practitioner / former practitioner of the martial art Lama Pai. He's also a student at the University of.
Right now, Malcolm X, but
nice.
I am doing a 2-year, and then I'm gonna transfer over next year to finish my last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And you're aiming for something medical, yes?
Yes. So after all that, school again for 4 more years, and then residency again for undisclosed amount.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. So yeah. How's that going?
It's going, sometimes have my doubts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. School's rough. It's just like, it's a little weird, the dynamic between a community college versus like my friends at a regular 4-year university. Mm-hmm. It's not the disparity that I expected. There's no like real difference between the education. If anything, like I feel like I get a very good like experience compared to at least my friends that are going to UIC, because it's just like smaller class sizes, especially for things like chemistry and like orgo. It's just like those are the things you need to like have a 10-person class size compared to like a 250-person class size to like really get. So not too bad.
Yeah. Well, when you do transfer over to like USC or Northwestern or somewhere, do you think you'll stay on campus, or are you like scared away by the horror stories?
I feel like for UIC, I would probably live at home still. Right now, I'm living at home. Haha. So I probably live at home still, because just like trying to save as much money as possible. But like, if I went to somewhere like Northwestern or somewhere out of state, I'd like to have that dorming experience.
Right.
See how responsible I could be.
Also, like, isn't like the distance like probably greater? Probably.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it wouldn't be too convenient of a commute.
Honestly, though. Plus, I wake up late often. So.
Yeah. So besides like the copious amounts of work, what's college like?
I don't know. It kind of depends. I would say it depends on the person. For myself, I will say that life is zooming by, where I haven't really had the chance to just like fully stop and just like, here's why what I'm doing right now is important, and here's what it means for like real life. There's still like that separation between, oh, let me just study, hopefully do well on this quiz. Oh, I did well on this quiz, but what does that get for me in life later down the line? Not too much yet. So I haven't really had that time to just like sit down and be like, here's why what I'm doing is meaningful right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the meantime, it's just like trying to maintain like peace with yourself to like do the day-to-day things.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, to sort of divert from that, you said you had some questions for me.
I do have some questions for you.
Because you're writing something for college at the moment, right?
I do. It's been a attempt to kind of like maintain my connection, or just like further my connection to, I don't know, I guess martial arts, since like my school closed down about a year ago. So it's been a like weird dynamic of like, okay, I'm on my own now. I technically am still in contact with my instructor, but it's like, how do you keep yourself motivated on your own when you don't have like that structured dynamic of a school that you go to like on a weekly basis, classmates that keep you motivated, and an instructor for like moral and just like technical support to like show you like, yeah, you're doing this right.
Right.
So it's been a weird like understanding of like, oh, I took some stuff for granted of just like having that structure and just like having that readily available, and took some also just took the time to like look back and see, oh, there's some stuff that I actually wasn't trying my best on, or like I wasn't actually good on. So just like taking a step back and being able to say like, oh, I guess I need to work better on this to be like more adequate. Okay. So that's been fun.
What class is this for, by the way? Just curious.
Just English.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been an attempt to just like merge the two of like, why make them two separate things and like increase like, oh, I have to put time in my life for this, put time in my life for this, put time in my life for this. Just combine two boxes and just like, now they're the same box. Yeah. So it's kind of like a paper, analyzing the difference between the distinction between traditional martial arts and modern martial arts. So I guess first question is, how long have you been practicing martial arts?
Well, I've been practicing martial arts almost 6 years now, I think. Because I started when I was 14. I'm 19 now, and I'll be 20 soon. So,
honestly, we've got about the same timeline. Yeah. I don't know. They don't know background context, do they?
Background context for like what I do?
I think for like both of us.
Oh.
We went to the same high school.
Yeah. That's how we know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the same homeroom for all 4 years.
Yep. And then we started a martial arts club at our school.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was fun. And we finally made it into the yearbook in the very last year.
We did. Honestly, it was an upward battle of just like, we kind of figured it out along the way, but there was just like bumps of like, how do we run a club?
Right. Like how do I manage people?
Honestly,
yeah.
we had like good days or like good weeks, and it was just like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
But then there was just like slow, just me and Caleb club member days. So
yeah. And then some days we would have really cooperative people. Sometimes really not.
yeah.
Sometimes I would possess or not possess the insight to guide people.
Yep.
So
honestly.
So.
And it's just like, huh.
Gotta rehydrate.
Yeah. I would do it again though.
Yeah, I would too. Totally.
So, is martial arts different now for you compared to like when you started? Like, is your viewpoint of just like, this is what martial arts is, or like this is what it means?
I would say largely. Yes. I think so. And it depends on how specific you, or in what way you mean that question.
Yeah.
Like relative to what it is to me, or how I see it as like a function of like what it is in the world.
I would say both. Like those are like definitely two of the questions like I had in mind for myself. Of like there's like a difference between like how you see it and just like what is good martial arts versus like what it actually means to you like on a personal like level.
Okay. Well, as far as like how I see it in the world, I think I see it a little bit differently because like obviously I've got like 6 more years of like more skill development, and I understand the nuances of things a little bit better.
Yeah.
So, definitely I understand like of course I understand the technical nuances better.
Yeah.
But I do think what the ideal standard of this is a good martial artist has changed because things like what I'm involved in, mixed martial arts, has really progressed in the last 4, 5, 6 years. So yeah.
Cool.
So, like, as far as like what it means to be a good martial artist these days, like what standards are.
Yeah.
Like now, as far how we understand martial arts is really broken up into 3 categories as far as like competitive fighting goes. There's striking arts, which is like kickboxing, boxing, and taekwondo and things like that, like full contact taekwondo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the middle ground between striking and grappling, which is wrestling, which means you can either defend takedowns really well and not get put on the ground, so like anti-wrestling. And then there's progressive like wrestling. You want to take people to the ground.
Okay.
That's like the middle ground ability. You can keep the fight where you want it to be. And then the other side of that sort of 3-sided coin, or like like the 2 sides, but then like the coin edge is wrestling, whatever. But yeah. So the other side of that coin is grappling, which is like jujitsu and judo. More so jujitsu, because jujitsu focuses more on once you're on the ground, largely.
Yeah. And
judo can be sort of interpreted as like has more of an element of like what wrestling has, because it emphasizes more on the takedown element, with a throwing element, which is a form of a takedown.
Yeah. That's true.
So what it means to be good as it relates to those 3 categories, it means you have to be either well-rounded, you have to be proficient at all 3. You have to be good at all 3 and be able to mix the 3 well. Or it means you have to be quite good at 2 of those elements usually. So usually that'll be like some combination of, I'm a really good progressive wrestler. I can take people down.
Yeah.
Take people down, and then also implement jujitsu, or some sort of some controlling grappling once I'm there. Or it can be usually the opposite of that. It'll be like, I'm a really good anti-wrestler. I can defend a takedown really well, and I can kickbox people all day.
True.
So that's what it means at this point to be like an elite level martial artist. You can implement like any of that, like any of like those 3 combinations of like those 3 skills really well.
Yeah. That's pretty neato. I would say about the same. I would say like, for me, like the way martial arts has changed is just like slowly getting a better understanding of like what's realistic in terms of like applications, at least. because I don't know. At least for it seems like there's a disparity between like especially traditional martial arts today and modern martial arts, where it's like the whole idea of like traditional martial arts like on their own are ineffective when like pitted against modern martial arts or just like mixed martial arts. And I don't know, sometimes there are like very skewy martial artists or like, oh, I know so and so, and just like you put it to the test and it doesn't like measure up to like all the talk they gave it. So it's just kind of like, someone's lying to me here.
Right.
And just like kind of piecing together of, okay, this seems feasible. This seems less feasible.
Yeah. As far as like as that goes, I think traditional martial arts is regarded as more like a cultural like time capsule these days, usually. And that's I think I largely agree with that, because for the most part, like you said, like when it's like pitted against most like a good standard of mixed martial arts these days, usually that falls apart, because I think traditional martial arts actually have like, as far as like the reason they've like the applicability of them as like isn't recognized like today, is maybe because like how they train has diminished in a certain way. I think like largely a lot of traditional martial arts schools don't spar enough, or it's like it's become something that's kind of like it's become some tool that's been thrown out. Like pressure testing your skills is a less common thing in a purist martial arts bubble.
No, I would say like from a personal basis, I definitely had that. Like, I'm happy like we had this friendship of just like, ah, man, you do martial arts, I do martial arts too, let's have some fun. And just like I remember the first time we actually like sparred, like it was with Sorrel on like the third floor atrium, and just like, oh no, we actually both hit each other in the nose. But it was okay after that, because it's just like, oh, we both learned something.
So, don't spar without gloves.
Don't spar without gloves. Oh my god, we both nailed each other with our own versions of an uppercut. So, fun times.
And wear above competition size gloves too. That's a good recommendation.
True.
We did that for a while. We went really light, but
yeah,
I'd still recommend wearing something that's like at least like at minimum like 12 ounces or more. Like that much padding or more. So I don't know. I feel like definitely on my side it's just like trying to figure out how to apply these moves that you kind of only predominantly see in movies. Like for the most part, like I did sparring at my school, but it's just like against someone that's also learning the same thing,
but is also just learning.
Right.
So they don't actually know how it's supposed to look like. So it's just like a weird standard of like figuring it out, versus like at a mixed martial arts school there's such a variety of like the I guess both the styles that you're getting and also just the people.
Right.
So
and it's more common to like have people who have pressure tested their skills to work with. So it's more common knowledge to know what and how works. When you try things like against people.
So I don't know, it's definitely fun over the years just getting to figure out like small things of like, oh, I guess like I'm turning too quick, or I'm like, this doesn't work as I thought it would, or as well as I thought it would. So just like making minute differences based off of that, and just seeing the difference of like how it's like to spar with someone that's like in the niche of your own style versus like someone that's just like, this is a little different. The tempo's a little different. I don't know, the idea of tempo. Have you noticed that? Like, different styles have different tempos?
I'd say so. Yeah, I mean, there are actually some people at my school who do have traditional martial arts backgrounds. I mean, fact of the matter is that my head instructor actually, well, of course, really only had that outlet early in his life, for example. Like, he was like a Taekwondo junior champion or whatever, and, which is really cool. And he's done like Hapkido and classical karate things like that. Like he's been through like a lot of the disciplines in the purest martial arts like bubble.
Yeah.
But like as far as it like relates to my own training experiences, we have a lot of other we have some people that do come from a traditional martial arts background. That I actually have sparred with. There's a couple people I think that have a Hapkido background.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I think their timing is definitely, I don't know how to quite think about it. It is definitely different. There's like, the tempo is like, I don't know if I'm gonna hash it out like clearly right now, but I'll just say, I will agree. I'll just agree flat out that yes, the tempo is different.
Yeah, I don't know, for like a lot of things, especially, I feel like tempo is like, the ones that I associate like tempo like explicitly with is like capoeira. Like they have like, oh my god, because like that's like, the history of it is just like intertwined with music for like all that like, oh, gotta hide it, we're not fighting, we're dancing.
Right.
And then for Chinese martial art, it has to do with like the lion dance drumming. And if you see like the Chinese opera, just like that's where a lot of the tempo and rhythm comes from, that then translated into cinema, where it's like, if you watch any like of those films, it's like they're all moving at like the same like tempo of like how it's choreographed.
Right.
So it's a little weird.
Yeah. Oh, I think I figured out a way to slightly explain it like a little bit better. A lot of the people I spar with who have originally trained at an MMA gym or who don't have a traditional martial arts background, a lot of their tempo is more akin to Western boxers. The way they throw punches, like how they pace out their combos and things like that, and their rest periods and their back on the combo like tempo periods. Yeah. Whereas, people who come from a traditional martial arts background don't have that Western sort of boxing tempo. Even when they punch or when they throw like really cool spin kicks and things like that, they throw it like they throw it a little bit different than somebody like a Thai kickboxer. Yeah. Which is like the common standard of like kickboxing in an MMA gym these years. Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of weird, like there's like such a heavy distinction despite the fact that a lot of mixed martial arts and traditional martial arts have the same elements but pieced together, but they're still like so distinct.
Right.
Despite the fact that like they have relatively the same like arsenal of like techniques. So it's just really weird to see like how far apart they are in some cases.
Yeah. There's like 3 different ways you can throw a round kick.
Yeah.
The same kind of kick. You can throw it like a Thai. You can throw it with more body weight behind it, like, and more hip rotation, or you can throw it like snapping.
Yeah.
Or you can kind of round it off in between in the middle, which is a way this one karate practitioner usually throws it. That fights in the UFC. His name's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Yep. Yeah. He throws a lot of his round kicks. He just he turns his hip over, but in order to quicken the motion, he rounds off the kick at the top.
I see what you're saying.
It like angles down at the last second.
Wildin'.
Yeah.
More questions. What style did you start off with versus like what would you consider your style now, if there is a difference?
Well, I'm still at the same gym, so largely the types of things I'm training hasn't really changed too much. But as far as like what element of like the many like little things I've trained, has changed. What I started out with and what I got really into like the meta of first was no-gi jiu-jitsu. Because that was like what I was like. That was like the first like technical breakthrough I had in my game. I was like, ooh, I could squeeze people really well with my legs and like bend people's arms the wrong way really intuitively.
Thick thighs take lives.
Yeah. You're right. But yeah, and in recent years, it's just been a matter of like having more technical breakthroughs in like the striking, for example. Yeah, so yeah, I've had a lot of phases. First I got like really good at like being an offensive jiu-jitsu player like years ago, and then I started like watching people like mixed martial arts. I started watching people like Dominic Cruz, who's like who moves around a lot and he's really defensively sound.
Yeah.
But his technical offense isn't the best. And that's kind of what I did for a while. And now I'm working on I think I have a good balance as far as my striking goes between technical blending good, more efficient footwork with technical offense and like some defensive like counter striking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Spicy stuff, man. Oh man, should I be answering these questions too?
I mean, if you want, totally. That'd be fun, yeah.
That's true. I don't know. I started off with the same style that I've been practicing. So the way our school was set up, I feel like this is the way for like a lot of traditional martial arts schools, at least Chinese martial arts. It's like there's a distinction between external and like internal. So external would be the style I practice, which is Lama Pai, and then they also had like a little lineage of Northern Shaolin, so there was like a little bit of those both. So one of those is the northern style, one of them is like more of a southern style. So all that means is just like little distinction of like how the movement looks and like the range, I would say. So, and then internal styles were Shingi and then Lo Hapa Fa. So a lot of people think like when you say internal style, it's more like Tai Chi. And I guess that's relatively correct, but Tai Chi is less like, I don't know, I feel like that's gotten the most recognition, and you've seen like a lot of Tai Chi practitioners face off with MMA practitioners recently, and it's just like, it's getting a little painful to watch because I'm just like, nah, y'all, don't do it. So, I don't know, I feel like there's just a very big difference between internal styles in general. Because Tai Chi, I feel like, has definitely been like evolved most heavily into that relaxation and like healing in the park kind of like style, where I don't really see, at least for my school, the internal styles that are practiced, they haven't really undergone that transition. They're still like relatively like slow the way you practice them, but it's not really the same of like, you can still kind of see the application of the movement. So it's not just, because there are benefits like health-wise to like slow movements for like Tai Chi and stuff, but it's just like combat efficacy, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
So it's a little weird.
Yeah. To sort of like finish rounding off your question, because I forgot a couple things. Something that has changed about my martial arts skills throughout the last 3-ish years. About 2 or 3 years into my martial arts journey, I got into judo. That was my sophomore year in high school, because they hosted a seminar at our school. And I really got into it, and it was like, it's a funny story. It was like, at the time, I was like the only serious person in the club, and I had a lot of fun like smashing inexperienced people, because I was like the one guy in the room with a jiu-jitsu background, and like nobody else like was there that like cared for a little bit, and yeah, I just had fun whenever we got to spar. Yeah, I got to triangle some people.
Oh my god.
Triangle choke some people. But yeah, that was an innovation I added to my game. That is one thing that has changed. And I'm still getting good. There are people who can send me across the room any given day. in where I train. But that's really what you want
Yeah.
if you're trying to progress. You want people who are better than you, so you can learn from them.
True.
And then as far as like one other element I forgot to mention, and this is something the MMA community has been focusing on largely a lot recently. I started working on wall wrestling. Wall wrestling, yeah. Because normal wrestling, like American, like freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman and all that stuff, it's done on an open mat.
Whoa.
You can't do wrestling techniques against a wall there. So now what some of the innovations that people are incorporating is like anti-wrestling against the wall and wrestling against the wall.
Yeah.
Our current lightweight champion is like a master of like wall wrestling people. And then just beating them up once they're like trapped between the wall and them.
Yes.
So yeah, and that's an innovation I noticed I needed, possibly in light of like my first bout, because the one time I did get taken down was against the fence. So now since then I've been working on that.
That's sweet. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that definitely speaks to me as like my personal opinion, like whether there is a distinction of just between like traditional martial arts and like modern martial arts. I'm still on the fence because it's like, yes, but I can't quite put my finger on what the distinction is. And it's like, is it the fact that like modern martial arts or mixed martial arts is like immersed in that like mentality of like constant improvement at like a rapid rate? I feel like that's definitely one of the factors, but it's just like, I feel that I kind of feel like traditional martial arts have that too, but it's just to a lesser extent.
Right.
Because it's kind of like what you said, they're like in that time capsule of like preservation. Because that's essentially what it is, and that has a lot to do with like how it's structured and how it's taught. Because through the basis of forms that are like passed down generationally, because there wasn't really a good method to do so otherwise. There wasn't like recordings or like any valid way to do it, and like even then it kind of gets lost because to a certain extent the concept of like teaching and just like was not as like out there compared to how it is today. Like finding a teacher was apparently relatively hard, and like finding a teacher that will teach you everything they know, also relatively hard. So it's weird.
Yeah, no, maybe there's a couple things that I'm thinking there. Maybe that like like you said, maybe like a teacher not teaching you everything.
Yeah.
Like is like maybe like consequentially like things got watered down. Maybe there's more to like traditional martial arts we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like that could have like incurred years ago. But like largely I think maybe like as far as like what the distinction is, part of what the distinction is now, or something that's really big about traditional martial arts today, that whole thing about like it being a time capsule, I think that's like it sort of feeds into itself in a way. The fact that people recognize it as a time capsule and as this like preservation of like a certain culture, like it by that very nature doesn't like need innovation to be sustained.
Ooh.
So and it doesn't necessitate pressure testing those skills because the skills are going to live on anyway. If somebody tries something in MMA and it doesn't work, people are going to throw those skills away.
That's true.
Like they're not going to do that again if they can't execute it well. So yeah, a lot of what MMA is like finding out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So, but that's really hasn't been like an integral part of what traditional martial arts is since it's like in this time capsule.
That's true.
And it feeds into itself because it only has to be what it is now if it wants to still be that.
Right.
So, the only way mixed martial arts can live on is if it innovates, really.
Yeah.
If there was no innovation in mixed martial arts, it wouldn't be there almost. Like, or we would have reached some super high pinnacle point, which is probably somewhere farly vast in the future. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, like traditional martial arts doesn't need innovation to live on because people want to recognize it as this time capsule of skills and of forms and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say definitely for me, like, there's probably people that, like, do envision, like, oh, no, preserve it exactly the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, at least for, like, my teacher in, like, my school, it's just kind of like, I'm able to appreciate both sides where it's like, I want to keep all this, like, history, but I also want to just, like, envelop, like, everything I can, just like, oh, this is useful, but then put my own style spin on it.
Right.
In the sense, like, I don't know, most styles, like, they have, like, their own, like, core, like, little thing. And, like, whether that's just, like, oh, it's all about the waist movement, baby, or it's, like, all about the footwork.
Right.
And then it's just, like, you take that core principle and then you could just, like, take anything and then just mold it around that.
Right.
So, I don't know. I feel like that's definitely, like, a positive attribute that's going into a lot of traditional martial arts that was probably lost because, I don't know, I feel like traditional martial arts, like even just Chinese martial arts, they are or were technically mixed martial arts at one point or another because even Chinese martial arts, like umbrella term, is filled with like a bunch of various like different systems, and it's just like they're pretty distinct if you watch like any one versus another, like Northern Shaolin versus like Eagle Claw, which is like Eagle Claw was like the predominant like this is grappling art,
right,
or like Mongolian wrestling, like that is or that was like the predominant like this is the epitome of like wrestling techniques. So it's just like a weird like how did it become so stagnant?
Right. And it's like, it's interesting, like, you talk about, like, the little differences in style there. I think that still sort of lives on in the world of combat sports. Because, like, you still have, like, small, like, different style distinctions, like, between, like, Dutch kickboxing and Thai kickboxing.
True.
But what I think is really interesting is that I think there are still, like, I wonder if like traditional marts,
Beautiful.
Yeah, all you could need for a rustic looking home. Yeah, but traditional martial arts, I wonder if some of them may be going into hiding in some ways though. Like traditional martial arts will like live on in this time capsule forever, but as far as like popularity at the moment goes, I wonder if they're more underground. Because there are still things like Kyokushin, like which is a form of kickboxing, but maybe gyms will just label themselves a kickboxing gym, like under that generic umbrella term.
That's true.
Just so they'll like get more business, maybe.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a thing. But yeah, I wonder if that's a thing. Because I wonder if I wonder if that's a thing. Yeah. Yeah, we cut it out by the way. If that wasn't apparent.
Let me try to recover what I said.
Yeah.
I said something about like, mixed martial arts is cool because it's like trying to find that like that Bruce Lee mentality of like, I will be the best martial artist I can be by combining like what's useful and discarding what's not useful. Versus like as an individual martial artist, like that's the goal.
Right.
But there's also this idea of like responsibility to uphold a tradition and like keep a lineage moving.
Right. Because you said it, you might have mentioned that like at one point maybe these arts were more mixed than they were at the moment, but they've been maybe distilled over time.
Right. Because like, I don't know, at least from what people have like, I guess, told like orally, just like livelihood was the amount of students you had, and the amount of students you had was based on your reputation. Reputation, there we go. And just like your reputation was gained as like a distinct like, oh, this is so and so style, this is so and so like family. Only they have it, and it's just like that's why it's distinct. Because if you could mixed martial arts, it's like there's so many places you can learn, which is amazing because it's like super accessible. There's still like distinctions of like, oh, if you learn from this person, it's gonna be like a little twist based on like the ratio of just like what they emphasize, but it's just, I don't know. I guess it's just like that individual versus like, oh, I'm learning this system
Right.
kind of mentality.
Yeah. I think, this is sort of the way that my sensei thinks about it. And I'll just sort of condense it into a weird metaphor about paint. So, what mixed martial arts really is these days and how people train you, at least I think largely at like some of the better places you can go. Like they'll show you they'll give you a lot of things to work with.
Yeah.
And you'll spend some time developing those in phases.
Yeah.
Like, so basically what mixed martial arts is, it's like you got a whole bunch of paint here, and it's like you're the artist, and like the teacher or your trainer is somebody who's giving you paint to work with, and like they give you enough allotted time to like try things with these colors, and this and that, or try things that they think would be instrumental to your game if you compete. Like they'll like show you specific things that would like work for you.
Yeah.
Or like they'll just show the entirety of the class, a lot of things over small periods, so they don't overwhelm you, of course.
Yeah.
So that you can filter in things you like into your game that work for you. So what mixed martial arts is like, it's like you got a lot of paint here, and you got a lot of colors to mix with.
True.
And then you just you play to the colors that work well with you, and with what you're inherently. Yeah, you see what colors you're inherently good at working with.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're gonna fit traditional martial arts into this narrative, there's like you've got like pastels or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like people in a traditional martial arts bubble are trying to be like a master of pastels.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or master of watercolor or something like that. Yeah. And I don't know where I was going to go entirely with this metaphor, but if you could give me where we started off, if you can. I don't know where I was going with that.
We're the artists, bunch of paint, up to us to figure out how to make our masterpiece.
Yes, something like that. Something pseudo-philosophical sounding like that. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. It's kind of like the same thing where it's like, you can't be good at everything. You can be good like a few small pockets. There's people that are good at everything.
Yeah, and those people are just abnormally amazing.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like that definitely plays into like a lot of like oral tradition, at least for like Chinese martial arts. It's like if you were good at one thing, like you got a name, like that was your name. Like
right.
Whether it was just like, oh, you got really good kicks, like that was like what you were you were known for, despite the fact that you had a system that you were practicing. If your kicks were good, that was it, baby.
So it's almost like not to sort of conflate it with like dirty like being a creepy salesman type of way.
Yeah.
But it's like fine. So not to conflate it with like sales per se, but like as far as like how traditional martial arts used to be, and specific styles, it was like a lot of just like finding and establishing your place in the world. Type of thing. Yeah.
We've had this conversation already, by the way. It was good. Let's hope it's good the second time.
Oh wait, I didn't plug the microphone in. Darn it. Okay. Well, we can put this in outtakes, not necessarily bloopers. But okay, it's recognizing the mic now.
Beautiful.
All right, so we're back. Camera troubles as usual.
Like that.
It's a staple of the podcast now. Yeah, so we were talking about how different styles of martial arts. Really, what it used to be is the separation of styles. It was it was sort of like finding your niche in the world and just finding your place in the world type of thing.
Yeah.
As much as it was like marketing what's special about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I kind of went on a tangent about like my personal like predicament of being like kind of caught between like this like individualistic like mixed martial arts slash like Bruce Lee mentality of like, oh, I want to be the best martial artist I can be. I want everything I do to be like the highest of like efficacy. Like I want to do stuff that works. And then caught between the latter half of like, I want to uphold the tradition of the style that I have, and I want to like make a name for it in the same way that like mixed martial arts has its own like pillars of like, you think mixed martial arts, it's the umbrella term, but it's also like Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's like these like distinct styles that like already have that name for themselves. And like for me it's like not necessarily like, oh, I think my style is like the best, but it's like, oh, I think my style also has like the same oomph factor that like makes these other styles like, what makes them is like they have such a, I guess you said like meta of just like they have a good understanding of like where they sit in comparison to like others. Like they have this good understanding of like, oh, I'm not the only style out there, so I have to have stuff that works against different types of like people. And then we ended up talking about like fancy moves to kind of like cover like the idea like, oh man, some stuff is not effective because it's like too fancy and it's like more showmanship. And a lot of stuff in Chinese martial arts it either stems from the idea of like entertainment aspect from the Chinese opera, or like street performance, where it's like martial arts was like a source of income where they needed to like gain spectators. It's like, how do you gain spectators? You do something fancy and then you get money. But at the same time, it's just like you see someone like Wonder Boy Thompson and they do the Wonder Boy kick, and then it's just like, oh my god, there must be someone that was able to pull that off. And then it's just like, that's why it gets put in a lineage, or like it gets passed on in like the sense of like traditional martial arts. It just gets passed on until maybe someone can do it again and pull it off. Yeah,
and that's why we were talking about like just to sort of bring it back to efficacy. Maybe at one point all these specific things that like people do like in different traditional martial arts forms like was an embodiment of a specific kind of fighter. And that's the reason it worked, is because different people can make different things work. Anthony Pettis can run off a cage and kick people in the head. Demetrius Johnson can suplex people and simultaneously armbar them in midair. But maybe the reason some of us doubt the efficacy or don't actually functionally see the efficacy in some traditional martial arts today, in tandem with the fact that they have been maybe watered down, because like not everything's been passed down necessarily, is because we are not that martial artist who made this style. Maybe they had like special physical attributes or a mental wrap around the style such that they could execute it in this really special and simultaneously effective way. I mean, I can't throw myself 50 feet in the air and front flip and kick somebody in the head. I wish I could. That'd be cool. Some people can, but most people can't, and maybe that has something to do with why some of the efficacy has been disappeared from traditional martial arts, because we don't see either special athletes or people with a matching mindset to the art they're training in. And that's why we do see more success in the mixed martial arts world, because there's several kinds of people and like several kinds of athletes that can do crazy things, and they have a lot of things to work with. Outside of like a set of like pastel colors. Like to go back to that metaphor, there are some people maybe if they train traditional martial arts, would be the perfect person for that art.
Right.
But we don't know that because less people gravitate towards traditional martial arts today. It seems maybe, and then yeah, it's just a matter of it's a matter of who the person is training in art.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like a weird.
All right. Okay. Welcome again.
We back.
We back. Indeed, we back. But we were just we were going on about we were going on about like who it is like implementing certain techniques in martial arts that matters, and then what were we going into after that, or what's a good segue from here?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess to slightly delineate, what were we just talking about off camera? I forgot.
I forgot as well.
Oh, okay. We're gone.
I was talking about like seeing how rapidly, or like what do you just full on drop and assimilate to in terms of like going to like that efficacy thing. And how can you like preserve like that traditional like martial arts? Like what do you find is like that core of like, oh, this is my style and I can steal stuff from other styles but still have it be like my own style.
Yeah. And like what I kind of suggested like offhand was that like, oh, find a good Hapkido dojo that spars.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a possibility because they still have like a different rhythm than like a lot of like traditional boxing, like I was saying earlier, in the way they throw their strikes and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it would also blend well with some of the bits of standing grappling that's in your art. Yeah. Because to some extent, I think their striking arts also like are blended with some like sweeping techniques and other like I think maybe even like judo techniques that might also work well with that. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah. But was there any base that we were gonna cover, like as far as like one concept before we wrapped up, or was that mostly it?
That was pretty much all the questions I had.
Okay.
For my stuff.
All right. Well, we wish we could have more of your time, Ish, but I know you have to be someplace, and I am also running deathly low on film, or on recording space, I should say.
True.
Well, yeah, good to have you on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I guess we can leave our viewers with a tidbit of information. The robot fighting industry is growing rapidly. They're able to do suplexes.
And arm bars in midair.
Honestly, it's litty.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you, and goodbye, guys. Hope you enjoyed.